What's up, y'all? It's Lucas, aka Television's Hub here, and today we're talking about the lowest rated episodes of Breaking Bad and some of the highest ones. Now, if you don't know me, Breaking Bad is one of my favorite shows of all time, if not my favorite. To me, no episode of Breaking Bad is trash, but hey, that's just my opinion. And I'm probably either going to be using IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes to compile this list. But coming in as a honorable mention, I'll call it, is 38 Snub. This was rated an 8.2 out of 10 on IMDb, and this isn't a very exciting episode to say the least, but it follows up a very exciting one. This episode follows up Box Cutter, which is damn near a top 5 Breaking Bad episode if you ask me. But not much happens in this episode, as I said. Jesse is super messed up over killing Gale, but he's throwing these massive parties in his house, so his house is turning into a complete shithole. Skyler is still keeping track of the car wash business because she wants to buy it. Walt kind of attempts to kill Gus, even though it wasn't really an attempt. He pulled up outside Gus's house, then he got a phone call to go away. But the most legendary scene in this episode by far is
the rocks, Hank.
Now, they're minerals. Jesus, Marie, I got some geodes coming that are very delicate, all right?
Yes, this is the Minerals episode that had that iconic line, the most iconic line in Breaking Bad. But I really like this episode. It really showed how messed up Jesse was over killing Gale, which maybe that's why some people didn't like it, because it's hard to see Jesse that way. But yeah, very solid episode. Coming in at number 5, so the actual list starts here, I guess, is Cancer Man. I'm not surprised there's a season 1 episode in here. A lot of people consider season 1 to start off pretty slow. It follows Walt as he tells his family about his cancer, or really Hank and Marie about his cancer. It shows more of the financial side of the White family struggles and how Walter is going to use this money to pay for his cancer treatment so his family isn't burdened. It develops Walt's cancer. This episode is really just like, it doesn't really evolve around the meth stuff. We also meet Jesse's family and little brother for the first time, which his little brother never makes an appearance again, but it's interesting. And my favorite, and probably everyone's favorite part of this episode, was the very end where Walter blows up Ken's car. We see Ken in Better Call Saul too, and not many people talk about that, but he made that appearance. This episode makes a little sense why it's down here. It doesn't really revolve around the meth stuff, more of the family stuff, which is still incredibly important to the story, and I still loved it, but a lot of people like the meth stuff better. Coming in at number 4 at another 8.2 out of 10 is Down. Basically, the episode where Jesse gets kicked out of his house. This episode revolves pretty heavily around Jesse, which would make you think it would be a high-rated episode because people love Jesse, but that's not the case. Jesse gets evicted from his house, and he doesn't have the RV, so he's shit out of luck for places to stay. So he breaks into the impound lot where the RV is, and he decides to sleep in there, falling into a porta potty on his way there and turning blue. As far as Walter goes, Skyler's pissed at him because she thinks he's hiding something. She's right. Walt gets pissed off at Junior because he's driving with both feet. And yeah, another one of those episodes where it's kind of uneventful. This one does not surprise me that it's down here. Also, apparently there was supposed to be a dog in the impound lot that goes after Jesse, but because of how expensive it was to have an animal trainer and the dog do all that properly, they just didn't do that. Would have made the episode a whole lot funnier though, I'm not gonna lie. At number 3 is Green Light. Would you look at that? Another episode with not a whole lot of action. This episode was rated, take a guess, 8.2 out of 10 on IMDb. This is the episode where Walt is really feeling pissed off at Ted for banging his wife. So he goes and throws plants and shit at his window. Saul and Walt get into a little scuffle, causing Saul to basically say, "I'm not your lawyer anymore." And what makes this episode deserve one of the lowest ratings is that Walt scene with the principal of his school. That shit was disgusting. It was genuinely hard to watch. That might honestly be harder to watch than the Ted Beneke and Skyler White scene. But honestly, that just shows how good these actors were and how well it was executed, since it was so hard to watch. Not much new ground is explored in this episode. It's pretty much just emotions. Yes, those episodes can be great, but at the end of the day, they're gonna be lower rated. We do hear that Jane's dad had attempted suicide by gunshot in this episode, so that's pretty notable. And the second lowest rated Breaking Bad episode of all time is Open House. This episode has an even 8 out of 10 rating. Another episode where it's hard to see Jesse in such a terrible emotional state. I mean, you love this guy. And there are some really cool moments in this episode, like QB and Skyler working together to trick Bogdan into selling the Whites the car wash for a cheaper price. We also see the heartbreaking scene of Jesse asking Walter if he wants to go go-karting, and Walter has the audacity to say no. to that poor heartbroken child. But I genuinely think the reason this episode is rated so low is because there's the storyline with Marie being the kleptomaniac and stealing a bunch of shit from open houses and lying her ass off to those people as well. People don't like Marie, so I wouldn't be surprised if a Marie-centered storyline had the lowest rated episode, or second lowest rated episode. And the worst Breaking Bad episode of all time, according to IMDb, I'm not saying this by the way, is, drumroll please, Fly. Yeah. Yes, this episode was made literally for budgeting reasons, so I'm not surprised that it's here. And the only two actors beside the extras to appear in this episode were Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston. I think this is the only episode in the entire series that's like that. What's impressive to me though is that this episode had a 7.8 out of 10 on IMDb. An episode that was exclusively made for budgeting reasons and only had 2 main actors in it. It just follows Walter and Jesse as they chase a fly around the lab because Walter says it's a contaminant that has to be taken care of. Yes, there is a lot more to it than that when it comes to Walter and what's really going on in his head. It represents a lot of stuff. I think you could argue it represents how much Gale's death is bothering Walter. I think you could argue that it represents Walter's excessive need and want to be in control all the time. He wants everything to be perfect and his way. There's probably a lot of different meanings to it though. Now that we've gotten the top 5 worst Breaking Bad episodes out of the way, let's talk about the top 5 best. So coming in as another sort of honorable mention for the top 5 is Dead Freight. This is the badass episode that everyone knows where Walt, Jesse, and Todd pull a heist on a train. And QB, I can't forget about him. He played a very important role. Overall, this episode was amazing. I mean, come on, you can't get more badass as a criminal than robbing a train. All the meanings behind Breaking Bad aside. And one of the more iconic moments at the very end of the episode, Drew Sharp, who is just a little boy on a dirt bike, finds them by the train with all their stolen goods, or stolen good, I should say, and just waves a simple hi, because he doesn't know what's going on. And then out of nowhere, Todd just pulls out a gun and shoots him right in the face. So, that's something. That's a big conflict that started, and that will continue for the rest of the series. But yeah, that's just an honorable mention because it's tied with number 5, and I personally thought number 5 was better, so I put it there. Because at number 5, we have Crawl Space. This episode just has too many great moments for me to leave out of the top 5. One of my personal favorites with QB and Huel intimidating Ted to the point where he tries to run away, and he trips on a rug and breaks his neck. I still can't believe he suffered that bad of an injury from tripping on a rug. That scene was hilarious though, I'm sorry. This is also the episode where Walter is threatened by Gus, and Walter, assuming Gus is gonna kill him and his whole family, rushes home to go get the money he saved up to let his family completely disappear. But of course, Skylar gave the money to Ted because she felt bad, and because him becoming paralyzed was, in a way, her fault. And it ends with a scene where Walter is crying, laughing, whatever he's doing in the crawl space. This is the episode where many call it the death of Walter White in that crawl space. And they say for the rest of the show, it's just the actions of Heisenberg or Mr. Lambert way down the line. But yeah, I'm glad IMDb agrees it's an amazing episode. Coming in at number 4 is Toahili. I don't know. But you know the episode, the one where Walter gets arrested by Hank and everything goes down Shit's Creek when Uncle Jack shows up? Also the episode, unfortunately, where Huel gets stuck in the safe house for the rest of his life. Or so we thought until the El Camino promotion came out where Huel was seen leaving the safe house. Thank God. But just seeing Walter give up to Hank like that, but then Uncle Jack's crew comes rolling in. Amazing episode. Honestly, I might have it in my top 3 Breaking Bad episodes. It's tough with so many good ones, but it might be up there for me. Just seeing Walt get tricked like that and completely blinded by his greed, like that's his only weak spot, and it really shines in this episode, and I just love that. At number 3, one of the best episodes of TV of all time, which is crazy because it's number 3 on here, Face Off. I mean, you gotta think what all happens in this episode. Walt and Hector work together to commit a sort of murder-suicide on Gus, which is successful, and we see that in the iconic, "Oh!" But yeah, we see Walter on the phone with Skylar saying, "I won." And then we see Jesse and Walter talking about Brock being poisoned, and it shows Walter was the one that actually poisoned him with a flower called Lily of the Valley. And this kind of relates back to the last episode we talked about where Gus Fring had a weak spot, as smart of a guy as he is. He wanted vengeance and revenge so bad that he got tricked and he got a bit blinded by it. And also, the shot with Gus in like half a face, bro, oh my god. Anyways, coming in at number 2, you could debate it's number 1, but it's Felina. There are so many amazing shows that just completely disappoint in the finale and have a shitty ending. Thank God Breaking Bad was not one of those shows having one of the best endings, if not the best ending in TV history. Like, I've never seen anyone call the Breaking Bad ending bad. I've seen some people say it's a decent ending or not as great as other people say it is, but no one's inherently called it bad because it's just so damn good. It wraps up Walter White dying in a place where he is so familiar with and that caused all this in the first place, a meth lab. Jesse getting free after being imprisoned as a meth slave for like a year. Uncle Jack's crew being wiped out by Walter just before Walter dies. And we do see Skyler, Walt Jr., and Holly living a really awful life, it looks like, under witness protection. I feel like it just covers all the bases here. And the Jesse thing is wrapped up in El Camino, but honestly, you could argue that it's wrapped up in Breaking Bad just because he's out free now. But at number 1, I'm sure you guessed it, just like in the worst episodes 1, it's pretty obvious what it is, Ozymandias. The only episode in IMDb history out of any TV show ever made to get a 10 out of 10 rating. Oh, does that not show you how good this episode was? Between memes made out of it. That's the first thing I have to bring up. Uncle Hank Schrader dying at the hand of Uncle Jack and some racist neo-Nazis. It's just an emotional roller coaster. You see Walter getting completely abandoned by his family. They turn their backs on him, which isn't a surprise because he's just gone too far this time. He killed Uncle Hank, and we see his selfish side show when he just abandons them. Obviously, not willingly, he wanted them to come with him, but it shows what his true intentions are in the meth business. Talk about a masterclass in storytelling, man. Oh my goodness. Anyways, y'all, that's it for the top 5 worst and best Breaking Bad episodes. Subscribe for more future Breaking Bad and other TV show content. If you have any shows you recommend me to watch, drop them in the comments below. This is Lucas signing off. You have a great day now.